Alright guys, so here's a review of the 150th Volvo EC700C High Reach demolition model. The manufacturer is unsure, although I would want to say Motorart because of the box that it comes in and overall look at the model. But I also would add in there, it does also resemble an NZG model. So really unsure. Honestly, I think it's mixed manufacturers. Model retails for around $154.99 at most retailers, so obviously that's around an average price. Model does feature one great thing, and it's this little plastic piece here, which most people would probably throw out, but what it does is attach onto the cylinder, and it creates it so you can't bring the boom down. If you do bring it down, it squeezes it and will push it out. So it's great for if cylinders are a little bit too stiff. And if you also notice, I'm back to the reviews with the white background, which I think are a lot better. So anyway, to get started with the review, I know I haven't done many reviews of dirt models or excavators lately since I've bought mostly cranes. You can see the undercarriage is, wide, but it folds in for transport, which is really cool. Honestly, I like it a lot. It gives it a great feature. It just adds to a lot of the model. The undercarriage is all metal. You can see how it extends out is basically just the same way that a cylinder on a model works, and it's got this cool little eyelid there that I guess you could tie it down, or you gotta pull something, really, whatever. You also notice that the track pads aren't too wide, and that's mainly because the undercarriage is wide enough, and it really doesn't need the wider pads, especially in a demolition. They'll bend and all. And the tracks are metal, and what was weird about them is they came greased, and there's grease on them. There's still grease on them, and I actually don't know why. I guess maybe if it's when it's coming over the boat from China, so it doesn't rust, or even so, you can see it rolls really smooth. So I would assume it's for that. But they roll very nicely. They're a little bit loose. They're not loose enough to come off. They're loose enough to where it rolls perfectly. Really no problem with the undercarriage. You can see lots of detail on the undercarriage. You can see the drive motor right there. A fair amount of detail. That does seem a little bit, actually, it seems all plastic. The steps over here are metal. The frame's metal. Not too much detail on the bottom of the frame. Like I say in other reviews, it's not really what I specifically bought the model for. It's got the rollers on top and less idler in the back. Also, you can see they are triple grouser pads, which is great. I'm never really a fan of these skinny tracks, but they're actually not that bad. And not to go off topic, but one of the reasons why I don't have the Hitachi 850 is because of the wide tracks, the skinny tracks. But if they get in this, that model probably wouldn't be too bad, since it's in the same class size. I figured I'd bring it up. The cab on the model is super nice. My favorite thing about it would probably be the cab guard, because not only does it cover the front overhead, but it has the frame of it that actually goes into the back of the cab, so it doesn't just go onto the cab. You can see the detail on the cab guard. It goes, lots of nice detail. The cab guard framing on it really isn't too thick either. It's nice and thin, and it's got lights on it. Handrail over here and the mirror. It is obviously plastic since it is so small. On the inside of the cab, which you can see right there, it's got the joysticks and a seat, foot pedals, nothing crazy. And if anyone has noticed, the cab does tilt up. It doesn't stay in full position up, but it'll stay around, just around midway, which is nice. Really cool. I wish they would have put a warning beacon on it, but it really isn't something that you can't add to it. So, the side of the model, nothing really crazy, you know, flat. These railings over here, and this one's metal, these are plastic. Flat body, EC700 stickers. If you see, it actually says HR for high reach, which is cool. Counterweight. Counterweight on the model, if you notice, it really doesn't look like an EC700. And I don't say that in the way that they didn't build the model correctly. I'm just saying it almost reminds me of an EC460. The Volvo on the counterweight is actually casted in there and painted, as well these red spots on the side, and the counterweight has a flat finish to it. I'm not sure what that box on the counterweight does or what it's for. I would assume it's to lower and raise the counterweight, or have something to do with the counterweight removal. But again, I'm not too sure. Have a good I don't have a good understanding. The right side of the machine is much more detailed than the left side. You can see it's etched in there. It has a nice look to it, the right side. In my opinion, a lot nicer than the left side. But obviously, since the left side has the cab, it's probably the side most people would display it from. Now, to the upper works of the model. See the steps to get onto the top of the machine, as well as the catwalks have the texture to them, which is always a plus. Great feature. Not really too much to say over here. Plastic handrails. And now I'll show you the top of the model. As soon as I get my tripod set up. Okay, so here's the top of the model. If I could just different view. This is perfect. Alright, so here's the top of the model. All the black parts you see are plastic. The top of the model and over here is obviously metal. You can see it has the texture on it, and you know, it does a fair representation of the actual machine. Obviously, you know, that could have been made a little bit nicer over here with the swing motor, but that's just the way they put it, and really you can't change it. Door for the engine opens, and pretty much that's just as much as you could see in there. I can't really see too much, but I mean, it doesn't take away from the model one bit at all. And there's behind the cab and above the cab. Now, coming to main purpose of buying this model, should be for the boom. The boom is extremely detailed. I have one other high reach model, and the detail on this model, boom wise, beats it out. For one thing, the boom on this model is absolutely huge. Since the size of the carrier is so large, naturally the boom would be large. And honestly, I think that they could have made this model a telescopic high reach. I think it would have been very cool, and I hope other manufacturers put this idea into perspective, because it would sell a lot, honestly. Really aren't that many high reach models out there. So anyway, to get to the actual review, you can see the boom on the model. which is just awesome. It gives them all just such a nice look. And like I'm trying to get to here, but I keep getting sidetracked. The actual boom. So they don't give you the option to have a standard excavator boom on it, or to switch it out, such as my other model does, which is the Hitachi 350. But buying it, obviously, you know that. It raises to a maximum height of around there, which is really nice. I mean, that's just awesome. So the first part of the boom, where the main lift connects, is, you know, fairly detailed. You can get a view of it. It has all the hoses running to the top of the boom, and this is where the little piece that they give you would come into play. Basically what you would do is just put it like that, and then the boom will not fall, which I wish that they would give this with every excavator model out there, because it is such a great feature, and it would probably make or break some people buying some models, because the cylinders not working, it really does take away from the model. So they give you this feature, and it's workable on any cylinder. Unfortunately, these cylinders aren't that too detailed on the bottom here, but it really doesn't matter. Like I said, my brother bought this model mainly for the rest of the boom. So I'm actually going to lower it to do the review, and then I'll raise it up and show you different positions, because it will be much easier. So here's the rest of the boom. You would think that these lines move, but they're actually all casted into the boom. If you notice, it connects here, and then it also connects over here. So this is an extension on it. It's around a 30-foot extension, and the cylinder, you can't disconnect it or anything. Like I said, all these are casted on, and it's just a lot of detail on there, a lot of nice detail. And then coming to these part of the booms, the hoses take a turn and go on top of the boom, coming to over here. There's really not much to say. I mean, I'll show you the top of them, and it connects to the jib over here, and I'm probably gonna have to raise it to show you how this works. So, alright, having to raise it, basically it just raises that like that, and then you'll extend that one out like that. You can see from me trying to move it, it's really stiff. So the cylinders are great as it is. I'm sure over time they'll get a little bit looser, but you always have to remember you have this little plastic piece. Now the jib on the top of the boom is great. I mean, very detailed. I like it a lot. Alright, so here it is. You see it's got a lot of lines running to it. It's got lines running to the cylinders, including on the other side. It's hard to make the review since it is such a large model. So check the link in the description for photos of it, if you really want to see every view of the model. And honestly, I'm sorry I can't show any view of it, but it's just too hard to extend it all out and move everything on it. So the stick on the excavator is also very nice, as expected. Basically it has the same thing with the lines running down and to the attachment, which is a 4th-member shear in this case, but normally, you know, it'd be a 3-member shear. great shear, but there's one thing that really takes away from it, and it's the fact that it can't rotate. So it only stays in this one position. The rest of the shear itself is very detailed. I mean, you could see the jaws open and close. Really cool. But it can't rotate, so it does take away from it a lot. But it wouldn't stop me from buying the actual model. But it would have been very nice if they would have made it rotate. It comes back pretty far, and it also it folds in very far, which honestly I wish that they would have made it curl out a little more than fold in, since in Demolition you'll always fold out more than fold in with a high reach. But still nonetheless very nice. Now I'll show you. It raised. So raised, you know, it's a very large model. Very large and very heavy. Out of a number scale of 10, 10 being the greatest, I'd probably give it probably an 8, mainly because the shear doesn't rotate, and there's not a cylinder to hold the cab up. But besides those points, for $154, definitely worth it. There's really not too many high reaches out there in the model market that you could even buy. So for $150, you're definitely getting your money's worth. And it's not even the EC700B. This one is the C. And what I'm gonna actually do, put them back to back to show you the difference. Naturally, you wouldn't think much of a big difference, but you know, pretty big difference. Improve the tracks and everything. But for $154, definitely worth it. If you're thinking about buying one, honestly, I would just say go and get it, especially if you don't have a Demolition model. One, you'll be surprised at the quality, and two, of the weight. Pretty much an all-metal model, as you could tell. But there it is, guys. A review of the Volvo EC700C High Reach.